My favorite day of the LEGO year is here because it is when LEGO has finally announced the new modular building, the shopping street. And after last year's Tudor Corner, which was so widely loved by fans, I think there were a lot of people that thought this next one could be a bit disappointing. So with LEGO announcing this set today, I'm going to break down some of the building techniques and all the things we see in this set that I believe make it a very worthy successor to a potentially all-time great modular building. So let's dive in to what I see. There's a lot going on here, so let's dive into the overview and when it's going to be released and those kinds of details. This set is going to cost 250 US dollars, 250 euro, and 230 British pounds. You do get close to 3,500 pieces and 7 minifigs for that price. So this is a little bit more expensive than some previous modulars of the same size, although it has more pieces, and I think that's going to be in part due to the height of the music shop. You do get 7 minifigs with this set, which is a little bit less than the last couple modulars that we've seen. You had 8 with the Tudor Corner. I believe we had 9, and this includes the mannequins and the statues, 9 with the Natural History Museum, and I think it was 8 for the Jazz Club. Yeah, I do like the fact that we are getting a marching band component to this. As somebody who was in marching band when I was in high school, it's kind of fun to see those uniforms and all the different instruments that would go into a marching band included in the set. On the right-hand side of the set, we do have the furniture shop. On the ground floor, it is a place for them to display their furniture and the wares that people can come in and purchase. On the second floor, we do have a workshop, which allows them to create and build new furniture, paint them, decorate, and do all those kinds of things with their tools and supplies. So that's really nice. And on the third level, or the rooftop of that, there's a garden, and then there's a bird feeder that's going to attract the pigeons that we see in the set. There's also a rat in the set, which seems to work very well with this little gap or alleyway that goes between the two buildings. There's a sewer system, it looks like, with lots of water that a maintenance man is going to have to come in and clear out, and the rat is definitely intrigued by that. On the other side, of course, is the music shop, and on the ground floor, you've got this wonderful display of all these different instruments, including a trumpet atop the door, the main door. You've got a trombone, it looks like a French horn, and a tuba that you all build out of bricks, and it's really fun to see the creativity that we see with those instruments. On the second and third levels, it looks like we have an apartment complex for the people who operate the music shop. So on one level, you've got some of the living quarters, and on the next one, which is the third level, you actually have more living quarters and a bathroom that's, interestingly enough, in the curved window section. So I guess people can see, that's kind of weird. But they do have that there, and then the top is kind of this little cupola that has a little, window, but I don't think it has anything accessible to it. So there's a lot going on with this set, and now that we've given the overview, let's dive into the details. The modular building is so anticipated every single year because it's going to give us some great building techniques, maybe some things that as fans we haven't thought of before. It's going to show us some really nice parts usage using maybe some newer pieces that LEGO has recently introduced into their portfolio. It's going to bring back some old pieces and maybe even give us some new colors for old pieces. And I think this set certainly does not disappoint when it comes to this. In fact, there's quite a few things that I see here that make it an engaging build. So let's jump into the building that I see on the right-hand side, which is the furniture store. Now, one thing that LEGO likes to do for all of its 18 plus sets, I believe, is to introduce unique angles. And this set definitely has it. Looking at the furniture store, there's clearly an angle there that looks like it's set by 33-degree double cheese slope. So and that makes it a very interesting angle because it's hard to use a lot of pieces to make those connection points really, really strong. But if you take a look at these facade for this furniture store, you'll see that there are a lot of brackets used that allow you to get some intricate details around the angles and in particular around the windows. Now, one thing that LEGO modular fans really like to see, at least I do, and I think a lot of other people do as well, is how LEGO frames in windows, because it's something that can be very, very bland and repetitive, and giving us a new technique or interesting way of doing it helps make the build a lot more engaging. So what LEGO has done here, if you take a look at this, using on the dark tan wall brackets that then allow us to put some tan plates and then followed by some white tiles to create that frame for the dark brown windows. But you'll also notice that there's a whole tan outline around the window, starting at the bottom using some rounded bricks and a 1x2 tile that are on their side. And then at the top, you've got a mud guard. Now, the mud guard technique has been used before. It was used on the town hall way back in the day. Slightly different angle of a mud guard, but same concept. Even the 6-wide mud guard that we see in the middle window at the angle was used as a technique in the medieval market village way back, I think 2009. So not a terribly new technique, but when you look at the totality of that framing, including the 2-length bar pieces that LEGO uses in white, and they then place the 1x1 round tan plate with a hole in it on top of that, really adds something unique to it that we haven't seen before in a LEGO modular building. Another element that I really like in the furniture store is at the roof line. Check it out. This one looks a little bit like, stylistically, the brick bank, but they use a completely different technique. I think the brick bank used some keys from the elves line that were angled. This one uses a 1x1 tile that has a horizontal bar. That's placed into a 1x1 tile that has the vertical bar, and that vertical bar is then clipped into a modified plate. So it gives a similar style, I think, to the brick bank, but is more parts intensive and has a slightly different, not just technique, but different look. And then of course you get the pulley that's in the middle of the furniture store. And that again reminds me very much of the brick bank and how that is executed for the laundromat side of things. There are some other interesting building techniques that I noticed here on the furniture store. Speaking of nice parts usage, I referenced that earlier. Check out the chair that the minifig is wheeling out. It's got scuba fins on the back of the chair. So LEGO obviously built a ton of chairs over the span of the years, and this is a unique way of doing it I haven't seen before. And I think it's very, very creative, and I definitely give the designer a shout out for coming up with something new that we haven't seen before. I want to move on to the music shop and the apartment that's on top of it, because this one has a lot of very, very fascinating techniques and some parts that I want to give a shout out to. Of course, this one definitely is reminiscent of the boutique hotel with the way that the angle is set. Now, in this particular set, we don't have a corner building, but it is something that has the flat side along the edge of the base plate that's going to allow you to connect it to other modular buildings. It's the angle on the inward side that expands the footprint of the building heading out toward the back. Now, at the front of the building, we have this rounded window. You get the balcony and all that stuff on top. And it kind of reminds me, honestly, a little bit, the top of it, of Rivendell. I know I've got that set behind me over there, but it definitely gives me some of those vibes, not just for the boutique hotel. But notice that on the windows, on the like third and fourth levels of the music shop here, they actually use hinge bricks on their side. They put the sand green 1x2x2 flat front windows on those and then angle them in to close off that gap. And that's a technique I haven't seen all that often in LEGO. Usually they are using hinge bricks in order to use roof angles or to set those angles for roofs. Here they're doing it for walls, which I think is a fascinating technique. Now, there are some other interesting things I noticed with the angle for this building. In particular, it looks like they're using quite a few 1x3 and 1x2 round tiles and plates that are going to help you set the angle and connect it to make sure that it is locked in place. If you look back at the corner garage, that is one of the sets where I think the angles are really interesting, but there were some unsightly gaps in it, and I didn't think it was as executed as well as it could. I think this one, along with the boutique hotel, are much tighter in how they execute those angles, and it closes off some of those gaps. Now, there are some, I think, wonky spots at some parts where the floor and ceiling meet, but there are, I think, it's a much better way of doing the angle than we saw with the corner garage. Now, there are some interesting techniques on the roof. The roof uses a gable technique, which is not uncommon, not just for LEGO, but particularly the modular line. In fact, if you take a look at the roof, the dark blue color reminds me of the Parisian restaurant, even though that used bow slopes. But the technique with the gabled roof offset by one plate is something we see in the brick bank. It's also something we first saw in a modular building in the green grocer. So they're taking the color of the Parisian restaurant and the technique that we've seen before in the green grocer and combining that here. I also noticed, a lot of fans are gonna like this, at the bottom of those windows, some could be 1x2 groove bricks or the channel bricks in sand green. Now, it's possible that maybe that's a 2x2 version of that, which could make sense because you have the 1x2 jumper plates on top of it to have that window offset by half a stud. But if it is the sand green 1x2 channel bricks, it's the first time we're seeing them since the OG Diagon Alley well over a decade ago. And of course, the greengrocer, and a lot of fans have tried to bricklink the greengrocer and build it, and those are one of the most expensive pieces out there, and you need 56 of them to build the greengrocer. You can certainly get a handful here in this set. So it's really nice that LEGO's potentially giving us that piece, and I, without having my hands on the set, I do think we're actually getting that piece because that's what LEGO likes to do in modular buildings. A couple other interesting techniques I see in the music store is if you look at the balcony, you've got these 3x3 curved slopes, corner slopes, but the way that they're building that with the snot techniques, with those corner slopes underneath of it is really interesting. And I also want to go back to the roof because they have these white bars, like almost like a handlebar piece, that are connected to some white plumes to help set the angle. Again, it reminds me a little bit of what we saw with the Parisian restaurant, but it's a different spin on that. So lots and lots of unique building techniques in this set. Now what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about how this fits into the overall modular series. One of the criticisms I've seen of this set is that it seems to be pulling different elements of a lot of modular buildings. In this video, we've already referenced the brick bank multiple times, the Parisian restaurant, the greengrocer, and a lot of people think that, well, they're not really making this all that original. And guys, I got a secret for you. Almost all modular buildings are going to borrow some elements from others. It's just kind of the way that it works. If you take a look at perhaps one of the greatest modular buildings of all time, and in fact, I saw people reference this particular modular building as a refutation of the uniqueness of the shopping street, and that is the Assembly Square. People are like, the Assembly Square is the GOAT of modular buildings, and it's so unique. Guys, it's not, right? They actually take, and Jamie Berard, who designed the Assembly Square, acknowledged this when they released a video announcing the set. This was an homage. It's the 10th anniversary of modular buildings to a lot of the prior modular buildings. Take a look at the Assembly Square where you've got the features of the cafe corner, the original with the little cup above the front door. You've got the little skis that are used as an archway there. You've got actually a very similar roof style to the Grand Emporium, right? So they actually borrow quite a few elements in that modular building from prior ones. And so that LEGO is actually going back and maybe bringing out some architectural details that are similar to other modular buildings is nothing new, and it's not something that really bothers me. And I don't think it should bother you because LEGO's not purely just ripping it off. They're actually updating some of those techniques and using newer pieces to achieve somewhat similar looks. So it's going to be a unique building experience. And it's still going to allow us to see how we can take more modern bricks and put them together in unique ways, which is, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, one of the points of the modular building. Now, I understand that some fans may not like the look of the set. I personally really enjoy it. I think it's really nice, but people have accused it of being busy, and I get that. But if you like the Tudor Corner, that was also really busy. If you look at all the accent corners that you saw with that building, you know, you've got black, dark green, you've got gold, you've got dark red, you've got blues. It's a lot going into the Tudor Corner. And in this set, it's going to be the same. Now, there are two distinct buildings here that are wonderfully connected on that one level with the door and a little walkway. I think it's fascinating off to the rooftop to the furniture store. But yeah, there's a lot of different colors thrown in there, some accents in dark blay, in white, in tan. And I get that it is kind of busy, but I don't have a problem with that. That's kind of where LEGO is going right now with modular buildings. And I think they've done a very good job here of giving us a unique building experience all the way throughout the modular building. That's part of their goal. Now, that's not to say they're never going to give us a more consistent facade like the Natural History Museum. That's a pretty recent modular building, and we might get one if we have, say, a school building, if we ever get one of those. But I do think that it's okay for them to have multiple buildings and different facades in there and work in different colors. I think that's what fans, by and large, enjoy. So now that we've taken a look at everything here, I do want to address whether or not this is a set that people should buy or buy early on or wait to get. And quite frankly, personally, we own all of the LEGO Design modular buildings. We also love LEGO modulars on this YouTube channel. We do a lot of content with them. So it's definitely a set that we plan on getting day one. And oh, by the way, yes, I really like this set. But at 250 US dollars, 250 euro, and 230 British pounds, it is a little bit more expensive than we've seen for some of the more recent modulars of the 32 by 32 232 base plate size. And that's in part because there's more pieces. This is actually representing a very good price per piece ratio that we typically see with modular buildings, and it's not something that we see with other sets, it seems like these days, where the price per piece ratio is getting worse and worse. On top of that, there are some small pieces. You look at the sidewalk elements and the decorations on there. There are some small tiles, but honestly, there's a lot of bricks and a lot of printed elements in this set that look to be really, really well done. So I have to say, this strikes me as a very good value. However, there are two things that might factor into your decision as to whether or not to get this right away or wait if you get it at all. The first one is that there is a gift with purchase available with the set when you buy it early on in the process. I'm guessing within the first week, if not as long as supplies last, which could be less than that. And that is a vintage parade car. I think the car looks amazing, to be honest with you. In fact, there are some people who think the car looks better than the modular building. I kind of disagree, but I get where they're coming from because it is a beautiful car. I like the fact that this car is a gift with purchase. It's not an essential item for the modular building, similar to the corner kiosk last year. And honestly, I preferred getting a car as a gift with purchase than as part of the actual set because, quite frankly, I think that takes up a bunch of pieces. This car is about 240 to 250 pieces with two minifigs that have some oddly designed hats. So if you want to get that gift with purchase, you'd probably want to get this day one if that's something that appeals to you. However, LEGO modulars do typically go on sale toward the end of their shelf life. The drawback of waiting is that you might wait too long, and if you're trying to get it in stores as opposed to online, that may be difficult to find in stores. Like I know for Black Friday, there were a couple modulars, including the Boutique Hotel, that were on sale. We couldn't find them at the LEGO store for a couple weeks leading into Black Friday, much less on Black Friday weekend or Insiders Weekend itself. So I think you can wait and get a good deal on this, but it's something you're going to have to definitely pay close attention to, and you do run the risk of missing out on that. Of course, you could look for a double points weekend that happens occasionally during the year and get some of your, or get this modular then. But all told, I think this is a very, very strong successor to the Tudor Corner. In fact, I'm gonna keep a pretty open mind on this. It's got a potential to rival the Tudor Corner as much as I loved that set with all of the details, the unique angles, the building techniques, and all of that in this set. Guys, I gotta say, this looks fantastic to me, and I think the building techniques are incredible. So I am excited for this. I'm excited to get it here in our studio and take pictures of it with all the other modular buildings. And if you want to see those, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hey, like this video to help push it out to all of the other people that might be interested in this content and are interested in not seeing all of the main influencers review it. Just that way we get more views and it can help grow the channel and do some of those and help us with some of the projects that we are working on. Thank you so much for watching. Always remember to keep building together.